when measuring your ROI is the tracking. So I checked out your guys' website here, and I'm taking it on faith that there's a, no, there is a, so I see that there is a pixel installed, but I see that you guys use Donately as your payment gateway. I was just talking to Andrew about this. Now, does Donately allow conversion tracking?
So when we initially set up the pixel, it did not. It actually very well may now. So I'll actually look that up in the background.
I have an article that I found that hopefully isn't redundant, but it's something that I was, because I saw you guys had Donately, and then I was trying to figure out like exactly if Donately had the capacity to relay back to Facebook how much each donation is, because that's going to be really important for your ROI, your return on ad spend. I'll put this in the chat.
Yeah, so for the Facebook fundraiser, I think the actual payment processor, though, is Facebook itself, right?
I don't, is it?
I'll confirm that.
Yeah. Okay.
Facebook processes the transactions themselves?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, that's
disperse the funds.
Interesting. And then in that case, I've never ran a campaign where Facebook was the payment gateway, but I would imagine in that case that they would be able to relay back to the campaign the amount of money that the campaign has generated, because that's your most important thing. And
Sure.
Getting that set up, I mean, we run campaigns for info products, physical products, events, and the most important thing getting set up is your conversion tracking. So that's something that you may want to look in through Facebook, and that's kind of where I was going to start. But there's a column inside Facebook Ads Manager, and you just have to add it to your report. It's just return on ad spend. Basically, you want to be getting a 2 or greater. And that 2 just means like like if you spend $1, you're making 2. You know, hopefully that's not too oversimplified, but I just wanted to like kind of cover that as the ground as the ground level.
Just assume we know nothing. Seriously, that you cannot oversimplify.
Okay, awesome. Then yeah, you set up. You go into your ads manager, and there's a column called return on ad spend. You just want to get like a 2 or greater on that. And if you don't have, this is where the most important thing is, if you don't have anything like tracking a monetary value, then you're not going to get you're not going to be able to generate any report on return on ad spend.
Sure.
So let me show you this.
And also, Frank and Brittany, I'm recording this, and I can send this to you guys afterwards in case you miss any details.
Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks.
So, Brittany, Frank, are you guys familiar with the Facebook Pixel?
Yes.
Okay. So it used to be just one pixel for all, but in my experience, you need to kind of generate a specific custom pixel. So you start with the original pixel, right? You go and you copy that, and then what you need to do, this is, let me just share this. Where to go? So then you go into Facebook, and you go into your pixel, and there's, Andrew, what's your opinion on, I could show examples in ad accounts that we have, but is that something that we wouldn't want to share in a presentation?
That'd be fine if you want to share. Who are you thinking of?
Tiamo?
Yeah, Tiamo's fine.
Okay. Okay, then I'll just do a live example for you guys. Okay, here we go. So if you're in your ads manager, you go to this little top thing right here, and it's going to be anywhere, and then you just click down to pixels, and that's where I am here. And then you're going to get taken over to this page. Now, what you want is to get into setup right here. Boom. Set up new events. That will pop this up. And then you click manually add event code. And then it'll give you all these fun little options. And you want to do purchase. And this is where you add the value. So this is something, for example, if you had a thank you page after someone donated $100 that was dedicated. The only way that somebody would land on this page is if they donated at your $100 level. And you could also have a thank you page that's specific to your $25 level or whatever. So you enter your conversion value, let's say 100, and then you put USD in caps. Like I've had problems where like I've learned the hard way. And then you copy this and you just add that to the bottom of your pixel, and then you put that on whatever thank you page it is that you're going to be tracking the behavior of the users.
So if we, oh, absolutely. So if we can grab that, if we can grab the value associated with a conversion separately via script and plug it in dynamically here, that's fine too. Facebook will handle that input.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because you guys are running a campaign that I've never used Facebook as a gateway before, so I would imagine that there's a way to have it report back the return on ad spend, but that's just like that's ground zero. That's your step one. You want to make sure that you have some monetary value attached to the conversion so that you know, so that Facebook knows, hey, like this is making money, this isn't making money, and then you can make your decisions to either cut bait or to add more to the budget.
Sure, sure.
All right, so that's kind of that. Now that we've covered tracking, and if you guys have any questions about that, you can reach out to Andrew or I, and we'll be able to help in any way we can. So we got that. All right, so optimizing your target audience. Let's see if you guys have done this before. What I would recommend is starting with interest-based audiences. Do you guys have lookalike audiences yet?
We don't have a formal list. We were actually, that was one of the major topics we were hoping to talk to you guys about, because we can easily come up with mirrored audiences that meet a lot of what we think we're looking to attract. But my question about that has always been, how do we know like which of those audiences are worth targeting versus like competing against with those existing brands? Like when, like for example, for our commercial soap product, different situation, but if we were to do a lookalike audience for like Dr. Squatch soap, then like how do we know that we're not throwing money away because they're already so interested in Dr. Squatch soap that they're not going to buy our soap? So like in an analogous situation, like how do you know which lookalike audiences are worth pursuing versus like you want the lookalike?
I would say the lookalike audiences that are worth pursuing are ones that have interacted with your brand. So if you have a 3,000 person email list, there's your first lookalike audience. Like upload that to Facebook and then create a lookalike audience based on that.
So Frank, I think our vernacular may be switched up. So I can get clear of what we define as a lookalike audience, what you may be defining. So what you're describing is what we call a quote audience set. So that's when we're targeting fans of Dr. Bronner Charity Water. And then what Zach is referring to as a lookalike audience, that's when you're uploading your email list to Facebook. And then Facebook says, here's a million other people just like your email list. So that's what we call a lookalike audience.
That's exactly what was happening there. So what was that called? A quote?
Lookalike audience. Okay, great. Boy, I could talk about lookalike audiences all day. So yeah, cold audience is your interest, where it's just like you want to start with an interest-based audience, like Dr. Squatch soap. Dr. Bronner's the one that Andrew mentioned, and you can start with all of those in one, so you get a huge reach. But once you start to actually get some traction and maybe start getting some donations from that and some conversions, what I would do is maybe separate those audiences out, because you don't know exactly if your donations are coming from people that like Dr. Squatch or Dr. Bronner's, you know, so you could make individual ad sets based on individual likes if the audience is large enough. Now then, what I would say to do is to create campaigns with those ad sets with very simple conversions in mind. Now, stop me if I'm going too fast. A simple conversion would be an add to cart, a lead, a page view, you know, and all of these are like events that you can set up for your pixel to chase after and make happen with its algorithm. That makes sense? So what you do then is, and I hope this doesn't get too complicated, but you create an audience of everybody that's become a lead, everybody that's like completed a registration, maybe everybody that's added the cart, but like you give it that simple event that you want it to do, and then you create an audience of all the people that have done that. And once you get up to like 500 or 1,000 of those people, you create a lookalike audience based on that audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that will generate leads based on the characteristics of that list.
Right. So what
Okay.
like a lookalike audience is just Facebook going out and finding people that are similar to the ones that have already interacted with your brand. That makes sense. So if you give it an email list, it'll take everybody that's in that email list and it'll go out and find 1 million people that are just like those people. Okay, so that's going to be your sweet spot. Like starting off with cold audiences, that's great to get the engine running. But then once you have a certain amount of conversions, you want to start creating lookalike audiences so that Facebook can do the heavy lifting and you don't have to think of all these different interests, you know?
And Frank, to answer your question of, I think it was around, are you saturating audiences if people already like a certain soap brand? So I know this is going to sound like a cop-out answer, but you honestly just don't know until you start it and let the data tell you.
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense.
So Frank, is it you that's going to be actually like in the ads manager running the campaigns?
Probably a mix of both of Brittany and I, actually.
Okay. Okay. So let me just share this again. So all of these conversions that you can set up, some of these are easier than others. Like view content, easy to do. All somebody has to do is go to a page, right? Add to cart, that's a little bit more like people need to be warmed up to that, purchase, all that. But all of these are options that you can give to Facebook to go and find people that will perform these acts. So I would say pick an easy one and then create an audience for that. And then once you get 500 or 1,000 of people in there, then you create a lookalike based on that. And what you're trying to build up to, your ultimate audience is going to be a purchaser lookalike audience. And that comes in like belts. I look at it almost like martial arts. Like your white belt is your interest. And then like as far as what you can tell Facebook to go and find for you, like your black belt is your purchaser lookalike audience. So you want to build up to that.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Now, distributing and pacing ad budgets. One of the common rules is like, say for example, you start with an ad set audience of, or an ad set budget of $20 per day. If you were to then go into that ad set, like say it's getting a good amount of reach, it's doing its job, then you were to go and just change it to $40 a day. That would be doubling the ad set's budget. You don't want to do that ever, okay? So typically the rule of thumb is you only want to raise an ad set's budget by 20% at a time. And then you give it a couple days and then you raise it another 20%. Otherwise, it'll throw off the algorithm because it's got too much money. It's just this weird thing about Facebook that if you double an ad set budget, it'll ruin the reach and it doesn't know what to do anymore.
Interesting.
General rule: if you start with a budget, you can either increase it by 20% over like a span of 2 days, and then another 20% 2 days, or you can just duplicate the entire ad set to where it's now a new ad set and you can set whatever budget you want. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I don't know if this is a rumor or not. So in your experience, does a longer ad run accrue like AI data and the leads zero in better over time, and like creating a new ad like X's out that experience? Or like how do we make that decision, like when a new ad is merited versus like, oh well, we need to make sure this ad's running long enough?
There's kind of a lot that goes into that. A lot of times for me, I judge based on relevancy score. Like an ad set or an ad that has a high relevancy score could be great for the audience, but after it ages a little bit, you'll notice the relevancy score start to go down. And when the relevancy score goes down, it tends to like not reach as much people. Facebook tends to start showing it less and less because Facebook's goal is to put out the best content that has the highest relevancy to the audience that it gets put in front of.
Sure. So do we have
Add
access to
email.
that metric? Like, are we able to see the relevancy score? Or is that an internal
Yes.
characteristic?
Yeah. That's just like return on ad spend. You can customize your columns inside the ads manager, and it's they may have changed the name, but it's relevancy score. You should be able to find it and add that column. 10 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. Sometimes you get lower than 1, but that's all part of just testing.
I'll add in one other thing, Zach, to your relevancy score. So this is also great to uncover where your bottleneck may be in your online campaign. So for instance, if your relevancy score is like a 9 and you're still not seeing conversions, you probably have an issue on your landing page with why it's not converting. And flip side, if your relevancy score is at 4, you're just not showing the ads to the right people. So you need to adjust some of your targeting.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay.
Okay, another thing. So you asked about like the length of time in which to run an ad set. So I learned this from Facebook themselves. How they go through their learning process, the algorithm itself, and what's learning here is your individual pixel. So your pixel is learning, okay? And what Facebook wants in order for what's known the initial learning stage to be complete on any ad set, ad, or campaign is 50 conversions within a 1-week period. All right. So that's why I say, like, start with an easy conversion, like page view or something like add to cart, because 50 conversions in a week would be difficult going out to a cold audience that has no, like, you don't know who these people are. But 50, complete registrations in a week, that's when your pixel will finish its learning stages, and now it knows who it's going after.
So
That's
you're
how it,
bootstrapping like tiers of conversion
exactly. That's
difficulty.
like the belt analogy,
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
So you start with 50 of something easy, and then once you get 50 of something easy, and it's like it's getting 50 week over week, then you move to something maybe a little bit above that, like, and then eventually you want to get up to purchases. And then, like I said, you create a lookalike audience based on people that have purchased, and that's your money audience. So yes, keep the ad set going and make adjustments until you're at about 50 conversions a week of whatever that easy thing is, and then from there you can start to really scale. Like, that's one of the best strategies for scaling your audiences, and starting off small and then just building up to better and better audiences.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So one thing that's becoming clear. So we were really looking to pretty much start these campaigns, well, pretty soon here, given that Giving Tuesday is December 3rd. So this is all data that we should have been generating before we are generating the target audience for these ads, right?
Well, I mean, it's never a bad time to start.
Sure. Oh yeah, we're certainly going to start now, but given that, yeah, so by the way, I did also look, the Facebook fundraisers the payment processor is Facebook. It's through PayPal Giving Fund, and that's who disperses the funds. But we're not going to have donors like visiting our website and interacting with the pixel.
So it's all done on Facebook then?
Yeah, it's all handled through Facebook.
Then
not that these insights are not completely valuable to us in the future and in general.
Well, I mean, I believe then Facebook should have the return on ad spend column already populating if it is getting donations. Like, I wouldn't imagine there'd be anything to set up there.
Sure. Okay.
As there would be,
Right.
like, off Facebook conversions, as there usually are.
For the ad that we ran for last year's campaign, was the goal donations? Was that the campaign goal?
For Giving Tuesday, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And within campaigns, you can have different targets. Like, it can be a conversion campaign, or it can be a lead form campaign, or it could just be reach or awareness, in which case, like, the metric of conversion that Facebook uses to consider itself running a successful campaign isn't how many leads it's getting, it's how many people it's showing the ad to. if
Mhm.
that makes sense. So I mean, you can
Absolutely.
have multiple different campaign targets as well.
Okay.
So those were kind of the main topics that I wanted to cover. But I'd love to open it up for questions.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, we're going to be incorporating the lookalike features a lot more now that we understand that progression. I like the belt analogy. I'm going to be hooking up all those conversions and try to get that process started. Nonetheless, so when we're in the process of creating a new ad, it just asks you like, who do you want to target this ad to? So are all of our ads going to be based on lookalike audiences, or I mean, is it a best practice to do like 50% based on lookalike and like take a shot in the dark with like using Facebook's manual audience targeting search field? Like,
Great question. Great question. How I like to do campaigns consist of 4 or 5 core audiences if you're not running interest based. If you're running interest based and you're kind of like building up those first levels, you can have like 10, like dozens of different audiences running at the same time, because you're trying to see which interest is going to hit for you, you know.
yeah,
But once that's done and you have your lookalike audiences, I usually run one ad set to the email list, and that's if your email list is, you know, like 3,000. 3,000 is a great email list to start with. Then I do an email list lookalike, and then I usually do an interest base as well, but that's usually when it's all just together and that interest base has been performing well. So that's 3. And the fourth and main, like very important one that I run is retargeting. That's your other ad set. And then you can add more to that. You can do, like, there's email list lookalike, you can do purchaser lookalike, add to cart lookalike, link click lookalike. You can do lookalike audience on just about any metric. So link click lookalike could also be a good idea for you guys.
And especially a past donor list. If you have a list of past donors, uploading that to Facebook and creating lookalike audiences against could be great.
My God, yeah.
The one other set that was not mentioned, this would actually be contingent on if you had a pixel on your website, would be creating lookalike audiences against website traffic if you have a high enough volume. Do you know what EcoSoap Bank gets on a monthly basis?
in terms of donations or traffic?
Website traffic.
It varies a lot. I have our analytics here. So far this month we have 303 users, so not that many, but last month we had 1.5K.
Do you know what the minimum is on website traffic, Zach, to run retargeting campaigns?
I mean, you want to have an audience of around 1,000, but I've run retargeting with very small traffic. The problem is your CPM, your cost per thousand, is going to be sort of high,
Right.
because it's so specific, you know.
Yeah. That's fine as long as the ROI is there in the end.
But you can also change your messaging, like based on behavior. If somebody clicked a certain ad or went over a certain thing, and then you can put some kind of urgency or like time limit on it. Like, that's something that we found to be very effective. I don't know how that would be in the donation space, but
Sure.
could be something to play with.
Sure.
But I mean, like website traffic lookalikes, that would be great, because people that click whatever your ad is and go over to your website are obviously like a warmer audience than people that don't. And I think Facebook, within their lookalike audience system, would be able to go and find more people like those ones that click to the website. So I mean, that's one. But like retargeting, I would say just create a retargeting audience if you haven't already, and set it out maybe like 60 days. And you would have all of those. If you did it now, I think it's retroactive. You would still have all of those 1,000 people from last month in it if you set it 60 days out.
Excellent. We'll certainly do that.
Yeah, retargeting is huge. Like, geez, especially for events. We did a campaign for an event. It was in June, I believe. and it was at about $60 per purchase that we were spending to get that. But as soon as we started with the retargeting, we were able to get that from $60 per purchase down to $20 per purchase, and we were at a 59 return on ad spend. So for every dollar, we made 59 back. So retargeting is amazing.
It's becoming clear we need to start engaging in the jujitsu of ad targeting.
Right. Building up those, because I mean, like the sooner you start on building up those levels of audiences that you can create around your lookalikes and around performance on your website, the more focused and targeted Facebook is going to be at finding people. And there's a term around the industry, I think it's called like educating your pixel, but that's what it is. Like you're graduating your pixel from like, page view to now we're at add to carts, now we're at purchases now, and that's, so you just want to like keep educating that pixel for who you're looking for.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I like that.
Okay. Andrew, did you have anything else to add?
I had two thoughts I wanted to add in. So one was around, this sounds like, Frank, this may be your guys' most sophisticated Facebook ad campaign. It sounds like for Kickstarter, you spent 2 to 3, but it doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't sound like you as a team at EcoSoapBank were putting as much thought into it as this one, correct?
I would say we were putting a lot of thought into it, but not educated thought. So we designed a lot of media, and we did a lot of like manual tweaking with the audiences, but we had no, pixel insights or, built.
Gotcha. So I would use this as well as an experiment in terms of creating some baseline metrics for EcoSoapBank. Knowing that you're going to be gaining a lot of data and intelligence of what audience sets are working, what copy, graphics, video, all the things that can really fuel your 2020 Giving Tuesday or any campaigns you guys are going to run over the course of 2020. So you're going to get a lot of data insights as well on top of the monetary donation ROI. And the other thing I would just think about as you guys are building out your 2020 strategy is what are some ways that you're looking to boost that list? Because it's not just emails. As you can tell from here, this is really fueling the lookalike audiences on Facebook that you can dive into. So I'd think about what other ways, what is EcoSoapBank's goal in terms of building their list to in 2020? And what are the ways you're doing that, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's you guys are going to be on podcasts, get an SEO campaign. I don't know what it may look like. I would really think about that. And actually now I have 3. So I have one last thing is there's a great tool that I love using, and I'm going to post it in the chat window, and it's called the Facebook Ads Library. Are you familiar with this?
Not at all.
So this is a very sneaky tool that not many people know about, and it's completely free to use. It's from Facebook. And so if you click that link, you can see all ads being run by any business page on Facebook. So I would say check out some of what you would say are like top nonprofits that you guys want to emulate. I know Charity Water is running ads all the time. I get retargeted with their stuff. So I would just see, the complexity of some of these campaigns. Like for instance, Charity Water has some great things where they're like, and you guys have some really great video content. So it's getting a little bit more sophisticated, but they may run a video ad, which is really just intended to develop an audience. And if someone watches, 50% of that video ad, which is telling a story of the impact of the Charity Water donations, then they'll get retargeted with an ad to donate for their monthly subscription of like 25 or $50 a month. So really, this is rocket science, and it's not at the same time, in the sense of like there's formulas out here of other brands that are getting the results you want to, and just doing some more due diligence I think could be great for you guys to see what some of your competitors are doing, or the Charity Waters of the world.
That is amazing, and I didn't know that existed, and I can already tell we're going to be spending a lot of time on that.
Yeah, check that out. And I would just like to add to what Andrew was saying. if you guys have video content and such, like that's fantastic, because what you can then do with the pixel is, like Andrew mentioned, create audience of people that watch 50%, 75%, 80%, and then retarget ads to donate on that. But beyond that, you can also create lookalike audiences of that bucket of people that watched 50%. You know, so chances are, if somebody watches like 75%, there's going to be other people that Facebook's going to be like, okay, well, maybe I'll go and find out other people that would also watch 50% of this, and then you can try that as well. Like that could be another great lookalike audience.
I had no idea we had that level of granularity.
Oh my God, dude, like the
50
level of
versus 70%.
Yeah,
Facebook's always watching.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know. Like, I'm half impressed and half very afraid.
Yeah, so I mean that could be another great option to start lookalike audiences, because say for example with realtors, I've done campaigns with realtors in the past. It's much easier to get 20,000 video views than it is to get 20,000 likes to a page, because video views are passive. You know, like it's just somebody's like, oh, okay, well this looks interesting, and if they stick and hang out for like 50-75% of the video, that person's most likely going to be in your target audience.
Sure.
And then you get to retarget to them, and they're already familiar with your brand. I love video. So, I mean, yeah, if you guys are using video, there's all kinds of options there.
Excellent. Okay. One other thing. So in terms of so for non-lookalike auto-generated audiences, when we are in that tool, just searching for interest-based or whatever, or behavior-based, what are the kinds of, based on what you know about us, what are the kinds of things we should be typing into that field to try out, beyond the very, basic ones like interested in charity? Like, how would you recommend? Do you have really any advice about how we should go about experimenting
Creating
with
those
that?
cold audiences?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it really depends on what the offer is, because if you guys are selling soap, then I would use a different interest-based audience than if we were just kind of like looking for donations. So like one place to start would be I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's also another tool similar to what Andrew had mentioned. It's called the Audience Insights. You guys familiar with that? Just do a Google search for it.
Yeah.
Facebook Audience Insights. And
No.
so this is a tool that lots and lots of marketers use, that tells you a lot of demographics. And the coolest thing about it is I can put in to the search box here, let's say Dr. Squatch, or I could even put like soap, Johnson and Johnson. Like, what would you say? Tell you what, you tell me, what is like your number one, like if you like the first interest that you would think of to target for you guys?
So in the context of this Giving Tuesday campaign, I mean, I would just automatically think nonprofit, soap, humanitarian, recycling, environment, women's advocacy, women's empowerment. But I wouldn't know how to differentiate. Like, what are the
like
what are the
zero
targeted
waste?
Yeah,
zero waste, I think, is a really strong.
That's a strong one. But for Giving Tuesday specifically.
So check this out. I'm going to give you guys a live example of what I did here. Boom. Okay. So this is the audience tool, and I'm just going to, you can use this. You can type like, try connections or whatever, but I usually just search like interest. So we got nonprofit organization and soap. And it tells me right here, 66% women, 34% men. Okay, relationship status, married. So these are all these things. But what you want to see is this little tab right here, page likes. So if I click over to page likes, these are all of the similar page. Like most of the people that like nonprofit and soap also like Turning Point USA. I would try throwing that into an ad set.
Wow.
Also like FAIR, whatever that is.
Wow.
Like there's a lot of people in all these things. So like these are where you find your suggestions.
This is going to blow Samir's mind, by the way.
Oh, dope, man.
Conservative news.
I can hear him now.
And so these, yeah, and there's plenty. Like look at like 1.5 million. Look at all these people, you know. But that's gonna be your cold audience. But I mean, like you got to start. You know, you got to start with those. So I would say definitely give some of those a shot.
That was like way better than I could have asked for an answer to that. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, we love our tools, man.
That's awesome. That is amazing.
Is there an ideal size that or like size range in terms of audience?
That is a great question. I wouldn't want to go higher than like 5 million in an audience, you know, because otherwise it's just too broad.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can play around with that. The average size of a 1% lookalike audience is 2 million people. So that gives Facebook enough space to kind of go around and see like maybe this group, maybe people that follow this behavior are into this, maybe people that do this. So you don't want to give it too much because then you're just paying for your ad to get shown to people that wouldn't be interested anyway. So I mean, I would say like try like 6 million or less. There's no hard, fast, like definite rule. That's just personally been my comfort zone. So I would say like play with that if you want. If you're throwing in all these interests and all of a sudden you're at 19 million, maybe like take off some of the ones that you don't think are best.
Yeah. Okay.
Or put or do each one of those in their own individual ad set.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Also, because I can't remember if this was in the notes that Frank that you sent, but we're targeting $1,000 budget for this campaign, right? So pretty small.
Yeah, that was the last figure that was mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. With that, I mean, obviously the goal is conversions, but I know for a fact that you guys will have a much more educated pixel by that time using some of the stuff that we've talked about today, and then it starts to really improve.
Okay.
And then with the education of the pixel, if it goes on sabbatical for a little while, does that education get retained?
Yeah. I'd say so.
It's just on pregnancy leave, and then it comes back. And it's
got to get back to work. It knows.
It's a very progressive pixel.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we stop for 3 or 4 months and then have another campaign that we've budgeted for next year, we'll still gain the benefit of what's been learned through this campaign.
Right. Now, once you create like a lookalike audience, that lookalike audience is set. So it doesn't become less like it doesn't. What's an analogy? It's not like a paper cup with too much water and it's not going to come apart at the seams. It is kind of its own structure within that audience, and it has. Say you start with a 1% lookalike audience, it's got 2 million people in it. That's set. It doesn't change.
But we will have to continually like re-up the lookalike audience based on the growing email list, right?
Yes, I think Andrew talked about that. But basically, if you have 3,000 now, you upload that, and that's then your email list, and that's an audience that you should target. But then you create a lookalike audience based on that email list, and then say 2 months from now you're at 5,000 email list. I would re-upload that 5,000.
Oh, that's what you. Okay, I see.
Create a new lookalike based on that 5,000 now.
What do you think is the ideal interval for doing that?
For uploading?
Yeah.
I mean, if you start with 3,000 and then in 3 months you have 3,018, I wouldn't say you need to do it.
So just kind of use judgment based on
results.
Yeah,
I would say like as it grows, like set benchmarks, like maybe 3,500, like do another upload and create another one. Because if you have an email list if you have a lookalike audience that's converting, you want to keep that. Like that's a great audience, like continually be making new lookalike audiences based on how that list is growing. But if you have a good purchaser audience, like you want to like notate that like this one is good or something.
Hmm. It seems like there's such an intuition behind this stuff that like you just have to develop. I mean, is that what it feels like from your perspective?
Honestly, after you've run enough campaigns, it's there's some, I mean, like, you start off looking at a certain amount of metrics and you're like, okay, well, I think this means this, I think this means this. But then, like, the more you do it, the more metrics you kind of like add into the equation. Like, okay, well, maybe, and then maybe the relevancy score and maybe the reach is kind of like dying here a little bit. Like, there's becomes more to consider, but it's like muscle memory, like learning how to drums, I would say. Like, there, you kind of learn what works for your company.
Totally. Totally. What else did we have here? So we had initially talked about concentrating that budget in the final 4 days. What does that look like for us in practice? Just like scheduling just a few more ads with the higher budget to run in those final 4 days, or re-upping?
Retargeting, if that's what you mean. Retargeting 100%. In the final days, I would say, like, if like it starts off with your, this is how I like to do it. It starts off with your outbound reach, where you're doing your cold audiences, your lookalikes, and even your familiar audiences, like your email address or email list. And you kind of have like this is the tier system for retargeting to outbound reach. But then as the campaign comes closer to a close, I usually kind of like raise that retargeting a little bit more, because these people are familiar with the offer, they've seen it before, and now I'm hitting them with a different kind of messaging where there's some kind of urgency to it, and then they can make they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, decision.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Excellent. Perfect.
For
Okay.
Giving Tuesday, you're definitely going to want to have some urgency added in, last day, 24 hours, 48 hours. That will help to push some more donations at the tail end.
Absolutely. Okay. We went through everything that I had on my list. Brittany, what's on your mind at this point?
I think these were some really good tips in here, actionable tips and insights. I just didn't know if, from your experience with working with any nonprofits, specifically on donation campaigns, if there was anything that might be unique or general best practices for that category that we haven't touched on.
I would say, Zach, I don't know if you've had some experience before NTM with any nonprofit or Giving Tuesday style campaign. I would say it's been a handful of years since we've had a particular Giving Tuesday Facebook ad campaign. I think whether it's a for-profit or a nonprofit, I would say the formula is still going to be the same. It's just the call to action is going to vary. So I would say some of that Facebook ads library research you can do on your competitors, especially as we get to Giving Tuesday and you can see how they're framing certain things, would probably be the best direction I would take on that point.
And I mean, just to add, like, if I'm not sure what could be done at this point, but I mean, people love to receive something, so if there's anything that you guys like have, like a lead magnet offer or something that you could incentivize, like, last chance to get this, like last chance to donate, and then maybe like coming on top with an offer of some other, maybe like educational piece, or I mean, I don't really know what that offer would look like for you guys, like what the capability is there, but coming up with some kind of offer that incentivizes the transaction as well.
We've had a lot of trouble coming up with something like that, like the standard, like, get this free PDF if you sign up with your email. Like, nobody wants to like get free hand washing tips. Like, we've had a lot of trouble generating those ideas, and like for the Kickstarter campaign, we did a sweepstakes offer where you're entered to win a year's worth of free soap. But I think in retrospect, that probably just generated cold leads that were not converting. So
I would say this comes down to then the copy and video or graphics that you utilize to, as you're pulling on a different heartstring, because this isn't a for-profit product you're buying that's benefiting me, you're giving money away to a good cause. So I think in the copy utilized, it needs to pull at those heartstrings.
Right. And in terms of offering something, I mean, probably the best thing that we've come up with so far is to try to kind of mirror charity water a little bit and try to incentivize with like granular tracking and granular itemization of what your donation is doing, where your money's going. Do you guys have any ideas about like how we could like tweak that concept, or like how it applies to us in a good way or a novel way, what people would be interested in there to drive a donation or a sign up?
So essentially, like, what would be a good lead magnet? I'm sorry, I was actually like, I'm here on this site and I'm looking up like donate. You know, I think there's some interesting stuff to pull from here. You know, this is the Facebook ads, but I'm sorry, Frank. What was your question? Just to make sure.
That's basically it. Like, what's the best analogy for us to have like a sign up now and get a free PDF, or donate now and download this guide to, you know, whatever.
Right. And those are always very specific to the brand itself. I mean, you guys do soap. I feel like, I mean, I don't know how much work it would create in the back end to, like, for every donation over $50 to get a free bar of soap. You know, like, I'm like, infrastructure wise, I imagine that could be quite an undertaking, but I mean, that's just, I mean, where my head goes.
Sure. Yeah, we've done that on an informal basis, not very like integrated. That is something, soap is the one thing that we have a lot of, so like we could definitely be doing more of that. But
I mean, like, I'm checking through here and I'm trying to see like what are these guys offering, you know? This is all just donate campaigns. Like, so what are these guys offering, and then what could we make to kind of, oh my God, Mitch McConnell has one. Like, what could we do? So I think I would just spend some time going through here personally, and just thinking creatively, like, what might work. Oh, but man, okay, so Giving Tuesday specifically, I think your guys' messaging, like Andrew said, is going to come in a lot, because what I'm seeing is, as a common theme here with all of these donate campaigns, is really strong messaging within video and the ad image and the copy and stuff. So I think depending on what you guys put forward that way, you may not even need to incentivize people. Like the video itself could be the incentive.
cool. Sure. Yeah, Brittany, the partner offers, that's a big, we've been trying to make that happen for a long time. I think we're getting close, but it's really hard because we've talked about like trying to have our partner hotels offer like free night stays and stuff like that.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to be able to pull that up for this campaign specifically. Yeah, we're just racking our brain about that, really in general, but okay, let's see. Yeah, so I feel like we just got like a lot of information that will be extremely helpful. So thank you both so much. Did we gloss over anything, or was there anything else that you guys had to mention?
No, I think mainly just like the power of like lookalike audiences, and if you're understanding like that kind of tier system of giving Facebook an easy target and then getting 50 of those and then moving it up to a harder target and then getting 50, like, if you guys are understanding that, then you guys are like well on your way to getting some very high converting audiences. And then yeah, it's just a matter of the ads and the copy and creating those audiences. So yeah, if you guys have any questions that I can help with, like, feel free to shoot me an email. we're here.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I'll send this video recording over shortly as well.
Cool. Thanks very much. I'll just forward it to Samir and he can just watch it.
Perfect.
Hi, Samir.
All right, everybody. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.